Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Today's episode is outtakes from Hobby Hotline a week and a half ago. I was on with Logan Ward in Orlando for Collector's Dream. Thanks sponsors, Topps Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins and Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, C.com, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentications. Thanks especially live callers in who really kept the show flowing. Highly recommend just listen to the program live. I'm just trying to grab 13 minutes out of the hour and something. Logan did a great job. Orlando had lots of good comments. And as usual, the stars sometimes are the commenters. Thanks for making that a fun experience. And here it is.
Lots of criticism on Fanatics, distribution, retail breaks. How different is this from past distribution to wholesale distribution like Blowout?
Number one, I'm proud of Fanatics for saying it. For declaring that. That's more information than we would get back in the old days. There was a perception that most of the product went to wholesale hobby distributors. And Fanatics has indicated they're moving away from that old model. If 40% is going to LCS, that's good. If 40% are going to breakers, that's just what it is. On the high-end product, it may be higher than that. And 20% going to retail, I like that. You got to get some retail out there, but I don't want it to be mainly retail. I just want every card shop that wants to have access to these products can get it. If that's the case, then that's fine. I don't want breakers to be the primary mode of distribution. And it looks like they're moving that way because Fanatics has their own platform.
You got to remember, 40% to breakers, that's pretty much Fanatics base, their marketing tools, their marketing end. And those breakers are going to be hitting those hits. That's going to encourage the retail sales and all the other sales. The problem with that, I see, is that the breakers tend to be the ones that raise the prices of the boxes or decide the prices, which affects just you going out and buying an average box somewhere else. But for them, it's working. Fanatics, that's the way they're marketing their products the best, especially on their own site. It's like a double duty marketing blitz. Remember, they're interested in marketing the new stuff. And that's really what their focus is. Those cards are worth 4 or 5 years from now, they're not interested in that stuff. They just want to move product, print product, and go from that. And breakers are the way to promote it the best. And it's working for them. But as long as we have access, I think that's what counts.
Excellent points, Orlando. I'm going to go even further in that when you've got breakers getting this product and changing the price of the product, Fanatics benefits if the price goes up. Whereas in the old system with the distributors, card companies sold the product to the distributors and then the price floated and they made the incremental. When the price went up, it was pocketed by the distributors. Empirically, I think we can see if there's a good run on a certain product, the price is going to go up if demand is increased. And Fanatics now has figured out they're going to be cut in. Price goes up, they benefit even more because their Fanatics Live people are in their system. So it's insidious and it's what you'd expect from a company that wants to 10x the hobby. And hopefully they're going to plow these extra profits back into reinvestment in the category.
It's good they let us know this, how the distribution model works. Breakers are here to stay, and love them or hate them, just part of the current modern hobby. I would love to hear Dr. Beckett's thoughts about the tariffs in Canada and China and how they could impact the hobby. In fact, the tariffs for PSA made an announcement. They're going to have tariffs on, they're not going to be accepting submissions from Canada, Mexico, China.
PSA, another brilliant move. The hobby loves scarcity. The hobby loves for people to be told, sorry, we're going to be restricting. And so you better get your cards in, or there's an opportunity because we're going to have some extra capacity. So I think PSA is a brilliant announcement because it's not that big a deal. Number one, I thought they had an office over in Japan, so the Chinese could go that direction. The Canadians, they already have a submission center in Canada, so they're not really affected. And Mexico is not a huge market for PSA. And I'm sure they could drive across the border, even with Trump's tightened up border. You can, in Southern California, you can get across the border. So I think it's something that's going to blow over it's allowed PSA to grab the spotlight, that they're being proactive in a way that causes you to think, hey, how's this going to affect me? Maybe I need to get some cards in there. So I think it's another good move from PSA. It's like industry leadership. The tariffs are coming, and here's our response to it. I wish they were this forthright on a lot of things, on everything, but on this issue, they've taken the lead, and good for them.
We'll see what happens now. But talking about products from China, top loaders and things like that, and the plastics probably, but there'll be a way to get those plastics made here in the United States or somehow, some way. I'm sure that's something eventually some business people will take advantage of certain things like that and do what it takes to make some money somehow, some way, maybe produce them here. But I don't really think it's going to affect us that much.
Ryan Stasinski is tracking. We'll see if it goes down in the next month or two. I doubt that it will appreciably because, again, people are going to say, hey, there's an opportunity. I can get a better turnaround when I send in my own stuff. Now, I visited over at Fanatics a number of weeks ago now. I'm just telling you, they aren't the only one, but they were already anticipating this. They have a huge operation there. And I got a tour of that, looked around. Every major business in this industry should have and probably did anticipate this because we've known it's been coming since the election. And how it finally works out, I think the bark will be worse than the bite. But most of these companies, including my old company, I'm sure, ordered ahead and stockpiled some things that were from those affected countries because you already knew, at any rate, it's going to blow over. And yet it's good to have more than a single source for some of these products. If you're a single source, just like with COVID, when shipping got way behind, it messed people up. I don't think they're caught with their pants down anymore. I think people have ample slab stock, whatever it is, plastic holders. They can't afford to be short. It's too important to their business.
Yeah, I'm sure they've stocked up and they're probably sitting on pallets of slabs right now. And I don't think it's going to affect them very much at all.
I will say this. It's an excuse for companies to raise prices, even if they're not affected by the tariffs. There's some tariffs, so I had to raise my prices 10%. But again, this is a market that's driven by demand and demand in the secondary market. If the price doesn't stick, but a lot of times the price does stick. But I hope it doesn't. If people are overcharging for things, say no and wait for the price to go down. Unfortunately, it doesn't usually work that way.
Whatnot has declared themselves a platform like YouTube and will not monitor sellers. Should Fanatics Live get more credit for actually having standards and monitoring? Whatnot said they have discontinued the replay of their live streams, so you can't go back and see if anybody's doing maybe something shady or something. Any thoughts?
There's a battle, guys. The battle between Fanatics and Whatnot. I wouldn't bet against Fanatics. They control the distribution. Yeah. It's not that they have standards and monitoring as much as they can enforce them. They have the big stick. So if somebody in Fanatics Live gets out of line, they got to toe the line. Whatnot is going to look like a renegade platform.
Definitely Fanatics has more to lose if something bad happens on their platform because their tentacles go everywhere versus just Whatnot. So they're going to keep a good eye on these guys, more than I think Whatnot.
I have a theory that there are enough penny sleeves, top loaders, and card savers in the universe already that if none were ever made, if they just were redistributed, think about the grading companies. I think they're dumpstering all the card savers that things are submitted into. If things were recycled, I think we'd have enough, for sure, penny sleeves. And yeah, card savers, top loaders, we've got enough. Just don't throw them away. Just recycle them or reuse them.
Yeah, I've often wondered what happens to all the card saver ones and all the penny sleeves that I send to PSA.
I think they're ground up.
Let's talk about the debut patches.
Recently, the Associated Press printed an article about the debut patches and how the young players are trying to collect their own patches. I thought that was a really great article.
Anything that's in the news that's positive like that is good. And anything that's getting the players talking about the hobby, involved in the hobby, participating in the hobby, that's all good. That's the dream come true. If you think 10 years ago, to imagine that players would be collecting their own cards, other than Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was surreptitiously doing it. But these young baseball players, I think it's awesome.
I think it's one of the best things that's happened in the hobby. Not only the debut patches themselves being an incredibly great idea, but just to have the athletes not only become collectors, these are people the fans look up to. So a lot of kids that were not collectors say, wow, Paul Skeens is a collector. I want to be a collector. Or I want to look into that. Or I've never seen that. So I think all of that's going to just draw people in the hobby.
You can have opening day patches each year. There's lots of things they can do with this. But most things in the hobby get beaten to death by repetition. So I hope they'll exercise some restraint. But it's a wonderful concept.
It definitely is.
I think it's redefining what the best card of that player will be in the future. I think this patch card will be their best card.
I like the fact that some of the families have secretly been getting these cards for their player relatives. I just think it's really neat. They've been giving them to them for Christmas and for birthdays and things. And I'd really like to see that. Rex says that those distribution numbers are not correct. They take into account all the DTC sales from Topps and Fanatics or online sales from the big three.
Both are right. I'm not sure Rex's point is well taken if that's the case, but I think the numbers were for hobby pack-out product, not for the whole industry, but not for other companies and not even for all of Fanatics business. It's just that when they produce a hobby box or a box of cards, a box of unopened product, where does it go? 20, 40, 40, the direct-to-consumer, the Topps now and all these things. That also is a huge business. I'm sure certainly double digit in profits. But I think their point here was just to break out those three things. That retail is smaller, which I think is good. Because when we got into problems with the junk wax era, retail was a big part of the problem.
It was literally everywhere. You could go anywhere and buy it. It was just incredible back then. Ziggy says, cancer patches are coming and they will tie into the cancer charities. That's actually would be a really good thing. That would bring a lot of awareness, and you probably see some good prices for some of those patches. There's a tremendous amount of one-of-ones created by Panini, but still I get excited when I get one. So I'm not going to complain.
We are in a junk slab era because there's a lot of cards that aren't worth the slab they're in at this point.
At the last card show here, a buddy of mine and myself, we bought a lot of 63,000 cards, and there's some junk wax cards in there, but we found some gems in there. But when you look at the prices for grading, like a PSA 10 is, say, $150, then a PSA 9 is like $10. But it's not worth taking the chance to grade that card. I don't know that we want to grade these because they're probably not worth grading.
There's not that many complete set collectors anymore, and that's true, but there's also not people anymore because of 3,000 one-of-ones. They can't say, I'm going to be a super collector and I'm going to get all the one-of-ones of any player, even an obscure player. It's probably virtually impossible. And so it's changed the thought of collecting that I have to have everything, that I have to be complete. I just want to have a great collection and I want to add cards that I like, but if you're a perfectionist, you're just freaking out because you can't get all 3,000 one-of-ones of your player, even if you had the money. Even if a player says, I am a serious collector, I'm going to get all my one-of-ones. So anybody's got a one-of-one of me, they can bring it to me and I will give them some swag. I'll give them a jersey. I'll hang out with them for a day. They still wouldn't get them all. But there'll be collectors that are trying to get a lot of their cards. They won't be able to. So the idea of a quest, it's not just you find it, then you've got to work out a deal. And some of these things are not for sale.
I've got several one-of-ones. I've got some Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Senior one-of-ones that I've had a lot of people say, hey, I want to buy those. It's, hey, you're not going to buy those because I'm not selling them. It's just not going to happen.
And you probably never sell it. That's going to be one of those cards that go in what I call a black hole. They go into someone's collection and they never come out.
My collection, I guess you could say that's probably a black hole because I rarely sell anything. So when it comes in, it's like the Roach Motel. Cards check in, they don't check out.